Congratulations on your purchase of an Alkazone Water Ionizer. There are just a few short steps to the actual installation process. After we're done, you'll have pure, antioxidant, alkaline water right at your kitchen counter. Let's get started. If you're watching this DVD, you've already taken the contents out of the box. Now, let's begin by looking at each part that we will be using to install the Alkazone Ionizer. Most of these parts are located inside the foam padding to the side of the ionizer. First, we have two sizes of the running water line connection adapter. This will be connecting the ionizer to the running water pipe under your sink. Next, let's look at the water hoses. There are two sizes included, one thin and one thick. The thinner one will be connecting the ionizer to the running water line connection adapter that we just looked at. The thicker one will be our acidic water output hose that will take the acid water from the ionizer to the sink. Also included is a sink mount suction cup holder that will help you to neatly mount the hose to the inside wall of your sink. Next, we have 3 hose clamps and a flexible water hose that will be sending water from the ionizer to your glass or cup. Also included are a spare fuse and a test solution kit. These aren't necessary for installation, so you can leave them aside for now. As for the tools necessary for the installation, we'll just need pliers or a wrench and a pair of scissors. Let's begin the actual installation. Take your new Alkazone Ionizer and place it on a firm and level surface away from extreme heat. Make sure you place it near an outlet so that you can plug in your ionizer. The first thing we need to do before we begin the actual installation is to make sure that there is an opening through which the thin water hose can go from the ionizer to under the sink. If you don't have a spare opening such as this in your sink, you'll have to either find another opening, change your faucet type to create one, or drill a hole in the counter. If you decide to get a hole drilled, we highly recommend getting it done by a professional. Let's start by turning the cold water off by turning this all the way to the right. We can test to make sure that the cold water is off by turning on the faucet on the cold water side. If nothing comes out, we've successfully shut off the cold water. Now that the cold water is off, we're going to disconnect the existing steel hose. To do this, take the wrench and turn it to the right to loosen the nut. Now take the adapter and hand screw it onto the pipe until it gets a bit tight. Then, take your wrench and finish tightening it on. Once the adapter is screwed on securely onto the pipe, we're going to reattach the steel hose. As a note, you can turn this screw on the running water line adapter to adjust the amount of water that is being sent to the ionizer by turning it with a flathead screwdriver to the right or to the left. To install the hoses, begin by laying the ionizer face down on a flat and stable surface. You may want to put down a towel to prevent scratches. Now, take the screwdriver and use it to open up the bottom panel located here. Next, we're going to take the nut off of the water input pipe located here, using the pliers. Once it's off, put it around the thin water hose, pointing outwards like this. Now, push the end of the thin hose onto the water input pipe. Once it's firmly set, take the nut around the hose and screw it onto the pipe threading. Use the wrench or pliers to secure it into place. Take the acid water output hose and put one clamp over the end using the pliers. You'll want to put it a few inches away from the end. Once it's on, take that end of the hose and wet it with some warm water. Now, let's locate the acid water output tube located here on the bottom of the ionizer. Push the wet tip of the hose over the acid output on the ionizer. Be careful not to twist or put too much force as it can damage the water input tubing. Take the pliers and move the clamp to the end of the tube. The hose should be firmly set. Make sure the tips of the clamp face away from the counter, as doing so may scratch the counter and make the ionizer unstable. Once both hoses are connected to the ionizer, find the tube and cable opening that's closest to the faucet head and put the hoses through. Then, reattach the panel. Let's now connect the thin hose to the running water line connection adapter located under the sink. To do this, take the thin hose and put it through the opening that we located at the beginning of this video. Once the hose is through, we're going to connect it to the adapter. To do this, let's take the nut off the adapter. Put it around the end of the thin hose, pointing outwards like this. Next, take the end of the thin hose and insert it onto the adapter. Once it's securely inside, take the nut and screw it onto the adapter threading with the pliers. We're now finished with the water input hose installation. Last, let's take the free end of the acid water output hose and put the suction cup mount over it. Once the suction cup mount is on, you can stick it onto the inside wall of your sink or anywhere you wish. Let's now connect the flexible metal hose to the alkaline water exit located at the top of your water fountain. On some ionizers, there is a rubber cover. Pull it off. Take this end of the flexible metal hose and firmly screw it into the alkaline water exit while twisting the hose. Make sure it is firmly set, but don't over-tighten it. Once it is, we are ready to turn on the ionizer. Now, we're going to plug the power cord into the 120-volt electrical AC outlet. But before we do that, we have to make sure that our hands are dry. Remember, never touch an electrical plug with wet hands. To cleanse your new Alkazone Ionizer and your brand new carbon filters, we're going to let cold water run through it for about 10 seconds. All you need to do is turn this valve to the left. The water might have a slightly dark coloration to it, but don't worry, it's completely normal, as it's a brand new carbon filter. You should see it clear out in about 10 seconds, and then you can turn it off. Now that your machine is fully set up, let's go ahead and test the pH of your water using the BHL pH tester drops included with your ionizer. As we test the pH of your water, please keep in mind that as water quality varies depending on where you live, you may get pH that is higher or lower than your chosen setting. To test the pH of your water, turn on your machine and set the pH to 9.0. Put a couple of ounces of water into a cup and then add a couple of drops of the pH test solution. You'll see the color change depending on the pH of the water. The water should become a dark blue or purple color. That means the pH is around 9.0 and the pH is accurate. If the color is quite different, that means that your water source is different. Check the included pH chart to see what pH the machine is producing from your exact water source. You can raise or lower the pH value to compensate for the difference. And that's it, you're done. Your new Alkazone Ionizer is now ready to turn your faucet water into alkaline, antioxidant water for you to use anytime you need it. Thank you again for purchasing the Alkazone Ionizer.